think, Marge. All I need is a title.
The thing these three politicians have in common was that their careers were ended by verbal slip-ups, faux pas, or misstatements. It's also notable that all three of these men were Republicans, and during the time that they were in office, the GOP became known for being trigger-happy when it came to pulling the plug on someone's career over even a slight slip-up. Don't get me wrong. Other politicians, men and women on the Democrat side, have also been the victim of an occasional verbal screw-up. But generally, when it happens to a Democrat, they are coddled and protected from criticism by a lapdog, lame-brained collection of faux news media outlets that have long ago forgotten what objective journalism is supposed to be. The problem is that over the past 20 years or so, the coarseness of the political discourse in this country has gotten worse and worse. In the 1980s, Tip O'Neill and President Ronald Reagan disagreed with each other greatly, but they often met together for dinner or long talks. Fast forward a decade, and it'd be hard to imagine President Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich meeting for dinner. How about Nancy Pelosi and President George W. Bush? I know! Rush Limbaugh and President Barack Obama. 40 years is an eternity in politics, but there was a time when there was more civility in politics, even between people who despised each other's viewpoints. Now meet this person. For those who don't know, this is Congresswoman Maxine Waters, who represents an area of California made up of areas south of the core of Los Angeles, apparently a fairly poor and run-down area of the city. However, instead of doing what she can as a government official to help her people in her district, low-IQ Maxine most recently has been trying to rev up a small crowd.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
Now we can move past the larger issue of the plight of the people at the border for the moment, and focus instead on what people are doing.
Protesters faced off against police as they halted traffic on a major interstate for over 5 hours Thursday night. It was the culmination of a day of rallies and demonstrations across the city.
Blue streets! Our streets!
I'm thinking that the cops should be held accountable. I'm thinking that Antoine should be here. He should not have been killed.
Cell phone video shows Antoine Rose Jr. running away from police as he was shot 3 times.
On the one hand, some people with a lot more motivation behind them shut down a highway in East Pittsburgh to protest the shooting death of a man who was apparently fleeing police while unarmed. However, when they were asked to vacate the highway by 2 p.m. in the afternoon, all but one person did so, and that person was arrested. This, my friends, is the way to peacefully protest and fully exercise your First Amendment rights. Then there's what Maxine Waters and other people advocate for.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
People with cancer. You're a horrible person. What would Mr. Rogers think about you and your legacy in Florida? Taking away health insurance with people with pre-existing conditions, Sam Bondi. Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
She doesn't care.
Shame on you, Sam Bondi, and taking away health insurance with people with pre-existing conditions.
To which I say,
I'm not threatening the king, sir. I am educating my nephew. Braun, the next time Sir Merwin speaks, kill him. That was a threat. See the difference?
Maxine Waters incites people. She tells them to confront and harass those they disagree with. As you can see from the clips so far, those people tend to be hyped up and extremely emotional. It would not be hard to see someone getting injured or killed during such a confrontation. And before anyone says that our friendly lefties will never do anything like that, let me remind you.
We are watching live pictures right now. We understand, too, there are helicopters in the air. You can see those here. They are there to medevac any wounded individuals out of that park area where the congressman, as Nancy described, were doing their baseball practice. We've also spoken with a witness on the scene who says that nearly 3 members of Congress took shelter in his apartment. They were not hurt. We know that this shooting actually happened in the dugout. We're also learning from our Washington correspondents that the president and the vice president have now been informed of what have happened. And you can see here what looks like, like a member of Congress that I recognize, but we'll wait for confirmation.
We do have it, Nora. We've told that the congressman who was shot in the hip has been identified as Steve Scalise.
He is the Republican House Majority Whip. And as you can see there, it appears that they are medevacing him. The Alexandria Fire Department and first responders are medevacing him to get treatment.
And this shooting happened in the dugout of the baseball field.
And as of this time, we do not know, even though we assume he's in custody, the name of the shooter and his motive or intent.
That was a threat. See the difference?
So, what needs to happen to low IQ Maxine Waters? Well, this comes in 2 parts. The first is a confession, which can take the form of a public apology where she admits that what she has said was wrong, harmful, and dangerous. And while it is quite fine and civil to disagree and protest against those that you have a disagreement with, physical confrontation and harassment of public officials goes far beyond the rights of free speech. The second part of this solution is just as necessary because while confession and apology are all well and good, most parents know that this does not take away from the punishment that goes along with doing something wrong. Both confession and atonement must go together. Maxine Waters uses the power of her office as a platform to launch these diatribes, which, whether she likes it or not, encourage violence, hatred, and assault. To paraphrase a friend of mine, her office should be removed from her and given to someone more worthy. But it goes further than that. Maxine Waters should be broken and damaged politically. She should be driven from office. She should slink back into the bowels of wherever she came from and should never show her face on the public stage again.
That this president has done a horrible thing, that this administration that's supporting him and not standing up and speaking the truth are supporting the president in a way that continues his ability to hold on to these children or not find them, what have you. And so when I spoke, I stand by my speech.
Shut up! Morons! I'm surrounded by morons!
If you disagree with someone or something, stand up. Make your voice heard. Explain why you think they're wrong and why you're right. Make the argument. Protest peacefully, but no one should call for the harassment of political opponents. That's not right. That's not American.